Okay, this is just a little bit of a new notation. It really doesn't mean anything. This means you have an equation G, that's just this line, and we have the equation H, which is this parabola. If we were to graph it, of course that would start at -5 and go up 2/1. It's that line. And then if we graph this one, that has a vertex at 0, 0. It's going to look something probably like that. And what they want to do is, okay, take any, let's say at -1, when x is -1. If we add the answer to -1 from this equation plus the answer to -1 from this equation, what is it? And then we could go ahead and try to graph that. Okay, so we're just taking the G equation plus the H equation. So sometimes it's written also like this: G equation plus H equation. Now this is calculus notation. You'll see this kind of notation a lot in calculus. So it's read G of x plus H of x. Okay, well it's just this equation. G of x is 2x minus 5, and then we want to add to that 2x squared plus x, and then just combine the like terms. It really is all that simple. So there's a 2x squared, and there's 2x plus another x, so 3x, and then minus 5. So what that's saying is if we were to add these 2 points together and then regraph it, it would be some kind of a parabola, some other kind of a parabola. Now actually, let me show you what that would look like just so that we know. Okay, so here's what we can do on the calculator. This is just FYI. Let me turn this off. Okay, I'm going to put them both in. I'm going to put this first one in 2x minus 5. And then the second one, 2x squared plus x. Okay, so if I graph both of them separately, there's the line, and there's the parabola. So you can see that on this one, it looks like the x is 1. When we go -1, the y is 1, and the y here is about -6 or 7. Okay. Now down here, what I'm going to do is graph them both. I'm going to take the answer to y1 and add that to the answer of y2. Okay, so that third one now is just going to be all of the points that are this one plus this one. And I'm going to come over here and hit enter on that, and it will make it go in bold so we can tell which one that one is. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at the table and show you that's what those points are. So here's the x at -1, y1 was -7, y2 was 1, and there's the y3. See, it added those together, -7 and 1. And then when x was 0, the first equation was -5, the second equation was 0, making the combo -5. And when x was 1, the first equation was -3, the second equation was +3, so they graphed the 0. And it ended up with just another parabola. So it was this parabola combined with that line makes this parabola. Okay, so you can add equations together, subtract equations together. So this one, you just have to be careful that this is f of n subtract g of n. So it means the f formula, n3 minus 2, but then we got to subtract the g formula and make sure you get this negative distributed across there. So the g formula is 2n minus 5. So it's really minus 2n plus 5. And that one doesn't look like there's any like terms, so just putting that in order, n to the third minus 2n, oh, I guess there's 2 like terms, plus 3. Okay, adding and subtracting, no big deal. Okay, this means multiplication. That means we're going to take the f of x and multiply that times the g of x. So we're just going to take the -4x minus 3 and then multiply it by the x plus 2. So if we took all of the answers to this one and multiplied it by the answers to get this one, we'll have a different shape. That's just a line, and if we that would have been a negative line, and that's a positive line. If we multiply those two lines together, like that dot times that dot, that dot times that dot, we multiply their answers together, we're going to get some kind of a parabola. Negative 4x squared minus 8x minus 3x minus 6. So the parabola is negative 4x squared minus 11x minus 6. And we can divide. So this just means the g formula divided by the f formula. So the g formula is 3n plus 2, and we want to divide that by 4n. Okay, there's not really that much to do with this. That's almost the answer. We can do it like, there's a couple ways we could do it. We could split it into its two fractions. That's 3n over 4n plus 2 over 4n. We could just do it like that. Here the n's cancel out. Here the 2 can reduce it a little bit. So maybe it would be 3/4 plus 1 over 2n. So that would be okay. That would be okay. Yeah, that would be all right. Either one of those. Okay, so no big deal on the first four. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. But the next ones are a different notation. That's an open circle. This is read g of h of n. Now, I actually don't like this notation. What we're going to do is we're going to take the answer to h and stick it into g. That's what we're actually going to do. I like this notation, g of h of n. And I think you'll see why. What that means is whatever this answer is, we're going to plug it into g. Okay, well, h of n is given. It's right there. So this piece right there is this, 3n minus 1. Okay, so they want us to take 3n minus 1 and put it every place in the g formula. Okay, the g formula is 3 something squared plus 2 something. So it's 3 something squared plus 2 something like that. And the thing that we're going to put in there is this 3n minus 1. And now we have to simplify it. Okay, we have to do order of operations. So you can't multiply the 3 in first. Exponents come before order of operations. So we have 3 times. Now from the last one, if you remember, it's always this one squared. It's this one squared. And then the middle term is twice the first plus the second times the second piece. So it's this one squared, 9n squared. It's double the middle. That means 3n times 1. That's negative 3n. Double it. And then it's the last piece squared. That's this. Square, double, square. Square, double, square. That's the 3 pieces. If that's just not something you want to do, you can always do it the long way and multiply it together. I've got to take this times itself. So there's the 9n squared. There's negative 3n. There's another negative 3n. See, that's why the middle is always doubled, and then negative 1 times negative 1 is 1, which gets us to that. Okay, and then this piece is still coming along. Now you can multiply. So we have 27n squared minus 18n plus 3 plus 6n minus 2, and put all the like terms together. So it looks like we've got a 27n squared. There's 18 and negative 18 and 6, so minus 12n. And then there's 3 minus 2 for plus 1. Okay, so we take one and put it inside the other. Now the order matters. So like here, this is f of g of x. So it's written f of g of x. This has to be done first. So the g of x is right there, x minus 2. And then I'll just put everything else around it. So this means find the f formula and put in x minus 2. So the f formula is negative 2, something to the third, minus 5. And this is what we're putting in there. We're putting in the x minus 2. Okay, so I've got to do this piece now. Well, that means x minus 2, x minus 2, x minus 2. Either do that or I'm going to do Pascal 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1. So I need the Pascal. I need the first term, which is x. I need the last term, which is -2. Put the negative in there. Highest power first, so 3, 2, 1, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is 1 times x to the third times 1. This one is 3 times x squared times -2. So 3 times -2 is -6. This one is -2 squared is +4. So this is +4 times 3 is 12. And this is 1 times 1, -2 times -2 times -2 is -8. So there's this red piece right there. So I have -2 times this whole red piece of x to the third minus 6x squared plus 12x minus 8. And then I still have this -5 from right there. Okay, multiplying in the -2. So I have -2 x to the third minus plus 12x to the second minus 24x plus 16 minus 5. Those are the only two like terms. So our final answer, -2 x to the third plus 12x to the second minus 24x plus 11. That's what happens when we take the G formula and plug it into the G formula and plug it into the F formula. Okay, G of H of N. We're going to take H, which is 3n minus 5, and plug it into G. Okay, here's G. G is 2 times something plus 2, and it's that something that goes in there. Okay, so 2 times 3 is 6n, 2 times 5 is -10, and then there's still this plus 2, so we have 6n minus 8. Okay, now we might have to cube something on this one. Let's take a look. We got f of g of x. So I need to get g of x, which it happens to be right here, x to the third plus 2x. Put that parentheses around it with the f. So it does not look like we're going to have to cube something because f is 2 times something minus 4. And this is the something, x to the third plus 2x. So multiply that times 2 is 2x to the third. Multiply that times 2 is 4x. And we still have this minus 4. There are no like terms, so that's it. 2x to the third plus 4x minus 4. Okay, this kind of notation means we're going to take 4 of the H formula and subtract 2 of the G formula. Okay, so it means 4 times the H minus 2 times the G. Okay, well the H is just 2x plus 3, that's this H. And the G is right here, x minus 2. And put it all together. So there we have 8x plus 12, and then minus 2x plus 4. So we end up with 6x plus 16. So that's this notation. That means 5 of the F formula plus 2 of the G formula. So we'll take the F formula and put it in here, -2x minus 4. And the G formula is x to the third plus 1. So that's -10x minus 20 plus 2x to the third plus 2. So there's the only like terms for -18. So we have 2x to the third minus 10x minus 18. Okay, here's the open O again. So this means f of g of negative 6. Okay, this means take negative 6 and put it in g. So the first thing we have to do is go look at g. G is something squared minus 4. That's what that means, something squared minus 4. And now the something is this negative 6. Okay, so negative 6 squared is 36 minus 4. So this whole thing ends up to be 32. So the answer to all of that was 32, and now we have the f in front of there. So what they wanted is you put negative 6 into the g, and then whatever that answer is, you plug into f. So now f up here was 4 times whatever minus 5, and now the whatever is this 32 right here. So 4 times 32, so this is 128 minus 5, so 123 is the whole thing. So when you put when there's a variable that goes in, you get the variable out, but when there's a number that goes in, you get a number out. So anything times 0 is 0. Okay, fine, but this does not mean multiply. This means f of g at 0. So I've got to find the g formula and plug 0 into it first. So here's the g formula. It's whatever plus 2. And now the whatever is 0. So g at 0 actually is the number 2. Okay, so that's the answer to the g. And now we have an f in front of it. So now we got to go to the f formula and plug in the 2. Okay, the f formula is whatever squared from right there plus 4 times whatever. And the whatever is the 2. So there we have 4 plus 8, so this whole thing is 12. So when you plug 0 into g, you get 2. When you take 2 into f, you get 12. That's what that's saying. Okay, f of g of negative 1. We're going to stick negative 1 into g, and then that answer into f. Okay, the g formula is 3 times something minus 1, and the negative 1 is the something. So it's negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. So the g, the answer to g negative 1 is negative 4. That's what goes into f. F is something squared plus something. That's what those x's mean. So the negative 4 goes in there. Negative 4 squared is 16. 16 plus negative 4 is 12. Okay, so numbers in, numbers out. 14, we don't have a number in, we have a variable in. We have x in. So if we're going to put an x in, we're going to have an answer with x's in it still. So g of h of x minus 4 means we're going to take the x minus 4 and plug it in the h formula. The h formula is 4 something plus 5. And the x minus 4 goes in there. So it's 4x minus 16 plus 5. So it's 4x minus 11. That's the answer to h. We take x minus 4 and stick it in h, we get 4x minus 11. Now drop down the g. That is what goes in g. G is 3 times something plus 5. And here's the something that goes in there, 4x minus 11. Okay, 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times negative 11 is negative 33. So we end up with 12x minus 28. Okay, 15, g of f of a plus 1. This is going to have a's in it. So first, the f formula is 3 times something minus 4. That's what the F formula is. This is what goes in there, a plus 1. So that's 3a plus 3 minus 4 for 3a minus 1 total. So there's the answer to F. And now just drop down the G in front of us. So now we're going to take the G formula and put this in it. Okay, the G formula is 3 something cubed plus 4 something. And what's going in there is this 3a minus 1. Okay, so again, you got to do the exponents before you do the multiply. So I've got to figure out what this is, and I just did Pascal on the other side. So I remember that Pascal is 1331. The first term is 3a. The last term is negative 1. Now you notice I put all that stuff in parentheses because the power goes on all pieces of it, including the negative. So highest power 3, 2, 1, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 to the third is 27, so this is 1 times 27a to the third, and anything to the 0 is 1, so that's 27a to the third. Okay, this is 9a squared times another 3 times negative 1. So that's negative 27a to the second. Here I have 3 times 3. This is a positive 1 now. So 3 times 3 is 9a. And this is a negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times 1 times 1. So all that turns out to be a 1 because 3a, anything, that's why you put it in a package, anything to the 0 is a 1. Okay, so this piece right here, so now we have 3 times 27a to the third minus 27a to the second plus 9a, that was a negative 1 right there, minus 1. Okay, so multiply all this by 3, so that's 81a to the third minus 81a squared plus 27a minus 3 plus 4 times 3 is 12a minus 4. Okay, so what do we have for like terms here? There's an 81a to the third. A to the seconds. Looks like this is it, so minus 81a to the second. A's, there's 27 and 12, so 39. And then there's negative 3 minus 4 for minus 7. Okay, and the last one here, so this is 5 times the F formula plus 4 times the G formula. So let's figure out what that is first. Let's get a formula for this first, and then whatever we get out of that, we're going to plug in t plus 3. That's what that means. So let's get a new formula here first, and then we'll plug in the t plus 3. See, that doesn't mean times t plus 3. That means whatever this formula is, plug in t plus 3. Okay, so the F formula is t squared minus 1. The G formula was 4t plus 2. So our new formula was really 5t squared minus 5 plus 16t plus 8. I think I'm going to call this another formula. I'll just call that the H formula. So we have H formula equals 5t squared plus 16t plus 3. So this wants H evaluated at that. So it really wants H at t plus 3. Okay, well, we have 5 times whatever squared. So 5 times whatever squared plus 16 times whatever plus 3. And the whatever is the t plus 3. Okay, squareds. Square, double square. So this is 5 times t squared. The first one squared. Multiply them together, 3t and double it. And then the last one squared. So that's really 5t squared plus 30t plus 45. Now I have this one, plus 16t plus 48, and then there's still this plus 3. So like terms, that's the only one, 5t squared. But there's 30 and 16 for 46. And there's 45 and 48, which is how much? 93, 94, 95, 96. And there we have it.